6 figures in 6 months sounds like an internet scam, doesn't it? What if it's actually a skilled trade with more demand than qualified people to fill it? I'm Matt Allen. I've been in the independent claims industry since the late 90s, and in this video, you're going to learn exactly what this career is, how much you can realistically make, and how to get started. And stick around to the end because I'll tell you why 2026 might actually be the best time in years to become an adjuster. So let's get into this, starting now. When a disaster rolls through town, hail, wind, tornado, wildfire, hurricane, and it damages and destroys homes, those homeowners file a claim with their insurance company, right? Somebody has to go out there, get on the roof, document the damage, and write the estimate. That somebody could be an independent property adjuster, right? So we don't work directly for an insurance company. We work for whichever company needs people on the ground. We get paid by the claim, and we move from event to event throughout the storm season, sometimes working for different carriers or IA firms. I spent 20 years doing this before I transitioned full-time to Adjuster TV back in 2018. I've worked claims in states all over this country. This is still one of the most underrated career opportunities that I know of. Now, people hear hurricane and they picture the big money events, right? And yes, those do exist, but I want to be straight with you about what exactly keeps food on the table for most working independent adjusters, and it's the Midwest. Spring and summer storms like hail and wind events that hit neighborhoods full of houses. Those are the bread and butter. They happen every year reliably, and we need people for those storms. So who gets those claims? Adjusters who are trained, licensed, and on the right rosters, and that's what this video is going to show you how to do. But before we get into the numbers, I want to walk you through what this career can actually look like and the main types of work that you can do as an adjuster, because there's more than one version of it. First off, we have field adjusting. Field adjusters travel to where the storms hit. So you get on rooftops, you inspect the damage up close, you photograph everything, and you write estimates on site. You're living out of hotels for weeks at a time during busy deployments. It can be physical, it moves fast, there's a lot of pressure, but when you get good at it, it can pay very well. Now, the other side of that is going to be desk adjusting and or remote work. So not all of our work happens in the field. There's a whole segment of this industry that runs completely remote. Desk adjusters and file examiners review estimates, handle supplements, they QC work of field adjusters, and they manage the back end of claims, all from a call center or better, from home. This path has grown a lot in the last few years. So if you've got kids at home, if you don't want to travel, if you physically can't climb roofs, or possibly if you want to build your skills while you're still working another job, the desk path is real and it's worth knowing about. Okay, so there are also two main types of claims work that field and remote adjusters can get into. Number one, we have catastrophe work, or CAT deployment, as we say. So this is the big stuff. We're talking hurricanes, major hailstorms, tornadoes, wildfires, flood. These are the events that you hear about where someone made a serious check in a short window. Catastrophe or CAT adjusters travel to where the storm hit, work hard and fast for weeks or months, and then go home when the event winds down. The second is something called daily claims work, and this is a completely different animal. Daily claims are sort of the regular property losses that happen year-round in a specific territory, like water damage from a broken appliance, fires like kitchen fires and things like that, general property claims. But here's the thing, daily claims can actually be a lot more complex in some cases than CAT work. You're often dealing with coverage disputes, unusual loss scenarios, and carriers who expect a high level of independent judgment. You often have a lot more responsibility as a daily adjuster. In fact, I once had a daily claim where there was damage caused by SWAT team flashbangs, okay? Because of that complexity and because daily adjusters are essentially serving a territory on an ongoing basis, most IA firms aren't going to hand daily assignments to someone without some CAT experience first. You got to prove that you can do repetitive, similar claims work before they trust you with claims that can be any policy and any peril. There's also a commitment factor here. So if you're working daily claims in a territory and a big catastrophe event fires up somewhere, you can't just pack up your bag and chase the storms, right? Those daily claims still need to get handled by somebody. The carrier and the IA firm are counting on you because that's where they put you, right? Leaving them in a lurch is not a good look, and it's going to follow you around. So understand going in that CAT and daily work are often a choose one situation, especially earlier in your career. Most people getting started go the CAT route first, especially field, because it's a lot more accessible. The entry bar is a lot lower, and it builds the experience space that might eventually open up that daily path for you. So that's the roadmap we're going to focus on here. All right, let's talk numbers. You can and will make a lot of money as a property IA, but there's a ramp. So if you're patient and adaptable and willing to keep with it even when it seems like nothing is happening, you will be rewarded with a great, high-paying, flexible career. And listen, this is not rocket science. The people who crush it as adjusters truly, honestly, just outlast their competition. There's not much more to it than that. So let's talk numbers, right? Year one, your first storm season, you are learning. You're going to be slower than you will be in year two because you're figuring out the software, the workflow for claims, how to manage your life when you're out of town for weeks or months, living out of a suitcase, basically, what your IA firms and their clients expect from you, right? Realistically, you might clear 30,000, 50,000, maybe a lot more if you land a solid deployment early and you hit the ground running, and especially if a major hurricane or two makes landfall on some major metro areas, right? Or maybe you make less than that, but this is not failure. This is just what the first year in a skilled trade looks like, especially one where you are an independent contractor, basically running your own business. All right, so years 2 and 3, once you get your feet under you and you're deploying with some consistency, that $60,000, $70,000 to $120,000 range becomes very achievable. You're going to be faster, you're making fewer mistakes, and carriers start to know your name. And this is where the career starts to feel like a career, right? You're starting to be full-time at this. Now, beyond that, once you get through your second season as a catastrophe property adjuster, technically, you're in the realm of the experienced adjuster. And for experienced adjusters who are fast, accurate, available, and reliable, 6 figures is not exceptional at that point. In fact, it's pretty normal. The top end of this career, people doing large commercial losses or who've built a reputation across multiple carriers and firms, these folks are easily bringing in well over $150,000 a year. And remember, we're mostly talking about May through November doing cat work, about 6 months of serious work. The other 6 months, those kind of belong to you. Now, I cannot overstate the importance of being efficient and closing as many high quality claims as possible in a year. This work simply isn't worth it to not be making at least 6 figures, at least $100,000 a year, okay? It can be very hard, it can be very stressful, and it can really wear you down. And because you're an independent contractor, you have expenses, right? You have to pay for your own vehicles, hotel, laptop, tools, all that stuff, okay? And I want to be direct about something. These numbers require grit. You're not punching a clock. You're not just showing up and getting paid. You're inspecting 4 to 6 claims, hopefully more, per day in summer heat. And if you're not willing or able to write them up at the house, you're going to be writing these estimates up at night in your hotel room, which makes your normal workday well over 12 hours and often 16 or more hours per day, 7 days a week, okay? You're available when the storm hits, not when it's convenient for you, but the income follows the effort, period, full stop. If you're willing to put in the work, this career can genuinely change your financial situation. I've watched it happen for hundreds of my certified students, happen for me. It is absolutely real. So, what are the actual first steps? Well, let me walk you through the roadmap to getting started. Step 1, and this is by far the most important. Decide if this work is actually right for you. And how do you do that? Before you spend $1 or fill out a single license application, I want you to do something that nobody really talks about, at least not in this way. Go and find out if this lifestyle is actually a fit for you, right? Not the income, right? Because that comes with hard work, not the freedom, the lifestyle, because field adjusting means living out of hotels for weeks at a time, eating at whatever's open nearby or frozen microwave dinners, right? And working long days in summer heat far from home. For the right person, this is an adventure. I myself did it for 20 years and I absolutely loved it. But for the wrong person, this can be complete and total misery. And you're going to figure that out about 3 weeks into your first deployment, if not sooner. So the best way to find out before you commit is to do a job shadow with an experienced adjuster. And I want to be specific about how to do this because I honestly think literally everybody on social media, Facebook, whatever, gets it wrong. Do not post in a Facebook group saying, hey, anybody in the St. Charles area doing claims want to let me ride along? This is not the correct move. And here's why. If you shadow someone locally, You're going to go home at night, you're going to sleep in your own bed, and you're not going to experience the travel, the hotels, a little bit of taste of the isolation. This is a huge part of what field adjusting as a catastrophe adjuster actually is. Also, more importantly, the chances of you finding somebody close by who just happens to be doing cat claims close enough that you can sleep in your own bed is close to nil, okay? The right ask here looks like this. I'm interested in getting into independent adjusting and I want to see if the lifestyle's a fit before I commit. Is there anyone anywhere in the country willing to let me shadow them for 3 or 4 days? I will travel to you. I will pay my own way. I will stay out of your way completely on the job, and I'll buy the steak dinners in the evening when you're ready to sit down and answer my questions. Okay, you travel to them. You melt into the background while they work. You're not helping. You're not pitching in, right? You're not writing estimates. I mean, you can carry the ladder or whatever, but your job is mainly just to observe. And then over dinner, again, that you are buying, you ask every question that you've got. So write those down during the day. This is not training. This isn't going on your resume. This is recon, okay? You're finding out if the life fits before you bet money on it. And you have to remember that the person that you're shadowing is working and they're not getting paid by the hour. So the more they have to stop what they're doing to show you stuff and answer questions, the more money that they are losing. So do not be a burden to them. Be in the background, or at best, a little bit of help carrying the ladder or being an extra hand, right? Step 2, get on rosters. Do not wait. And this might surprise you. You don't have to wait until everything is in place to start getting into iFirm systems. In fact, you absolutely should not wait. Most, not all, but most of the major iFirms will let you get into their onboarding process right now, right? Before you have your license, before you've completed your training, even if your resume is just your name, phone number, and email address on a cocktail napkin, okay? They need to do a background check, a drug screen, paperwork, webinars, system orientation, all right? You can be working through all of this stuff while you're doing everything else in parallel. 2 things to understand here. Number 1, firms can get you into their system without any training or licenses on file. They just can't put you to work until those boxes are checked. And 2, you don't want to be scrambling through this firm onboarding stuff when a storm is 2 days from making landfall. That is not the moment to be filling out paperwork and waiting on a background check to clear. So start the roster process now. Let the onboarding run in the background while you're knocking out your licenses and your training. And by the time a deployment opportunity comes around, you want them to be able to call you and say, hey, pack your bags and get to the coast, not, hey, you still need to finish doing this webinar or do the drug screen or do the thing or fill out the ACH form, the direct deposit, this, that, and the other thing, blah, blah, blah. Step 3, you need to get licensed. Every adjuster license that you hold is a key that unlocks more work for you. When a storm hits a state and an iFirm and their carrier partner need to activate adjusters, they're going to search their roster for people who are licensed in that state. That is how it works, okay? If you don't have the license, you won't show up in that search and you're not going to get the call, period. It doesn't matter how good you are or how available you are. If you don't have the license, you don't exist for that event. You're just simply not going to get called. So the more licenses you hold, the more searches you show up in, and the more opportunities you have to get deployed. And this is especially important if you're thinking about doing just remote desk work. Let's say you live in Colorado, right? Colorado currently has no adjuster licensing requirement. But if a firm has desk work available for claims out of New Hampshire, you can't touch those files without a New Hampshire license or Texas license or whichever state it is license, right? The license requirement follows the state where the loss occurred, not where you're sitting. So if you're building a remote career, stacking licenses is even arguably more important than it is for a field adjuster. And I've got a full video on licensing strategy that you can check out right here, where I talk about which states to start with, how reciprocity works, and how to build your license portfolio over time. But you got to start with one and you got to start now. Okay, all right, let's go to step 4, the software. Step 4 can actually run kind of at the same time as step 3 because there's no reason you can't be studying for your license and learning the software simultaneously. The primary estimating platform in property claims is Xactimate. If you're going to work as a property adjuster, you need to know Xactimate. And I want to give you a useful way to think about what knowing Xactimate actually means, because there are kind of 2 different things going on here. A mechanic knows how a race car is built. Okay, they know every system, every component, how to find things, how to replace things, how to fix things. Okay, but the driver is the one who wins races in the car. So to be a working adjuster, you have to be both. You have to know how the software works mechanically, and you have to know how to use it as a tool in the context of an actual claim, how to drive it, okay? Getting your Xactimate Level 2 user certification tells AI firms that you know the mechanics, the bells and buttons, that you can find what you're looking for, you can build an estimate, you can navigate the platform. That matters, and it is also important for your success at an individual level. But the certification alone doesn't mean that you know how to drive the race car, right? Learning to drive Xactimate, using it the way an experienced adjuster uses it on a real claim, that's what training in this step is for. So get the level 2 certification, then get the training that teaches you how to actually use it as an adjuster, which we are now going to tackle in step 5, get trained. Experienced independent property adjusters can earn what a family medicine doctor earns in a year, but the adjuster can often do it in as little as half of a year, okay? And they're also definitely going to do it without 2 decades of school and without $500,000 in student debt. A new adjuster can get their license, their training, their gear, maybe fix up their car a little bit, and have money set aside for their first deployment, the whole thing from zero for under $10,000, okay? That's the entire cost of entry into a career with a ceiling in the low to mid 6 figures, okay? So when somebody on Reddit tells you not to pay for training, I want you to think about that math. You're entering a skilled profession, okay? And with AI these days, it's even more important that you have a high level of skill. It pays to invest in your skills as a professional. Why would you skip the training to save a few $100 or a couple grand, or because some stranger online said that you don't need it? Now, that being said, not all training is equal. And here's exactly what you should look for, because this is very, very important. Good training does 2 things. First, it makes you competent in the field, using Xactimate as a tool to handle claims and not just write estimates, customer service, routing and scheduling, restoration construction, policy analysis, okay? All the things that adjusters do that nobody else does. Second, it has to prove to AI firms that you can actually do the work before you have any work experience to show them. Those are 2 different jobs, and a lot of free or low-cost training only does one of them, if even that. The training worth investing in tests you. It doesn't just hand you a certificate of completion for sitting in a classroom for 5 days or speed viewing a bunch of old videos and then giving you an open book test. It puts you through your paces, it holds you accountable to a standard, and then, and this is the part that matters most for you as a brand new adjuster, it provides a professional referral to the biggest and best AI firms in the industry, the ones who are going to have the most opportunities for you as a newbie. That referral is what gets you onto the ready roster instead of the back bench when you have 0 claims experience. It's someone with decades of experience and industry credibility saying, this person is ready. You cannot buy that from a certificate of completion mill adjuster training. Everything else is secondary to finding training that does both of those things. You can prove that you can do the work before they give you a chance to do the work. It helps them feel comfortable giving you claims, and it makes you able to actually do the claims when they give them to you. Okay, this is super duper important. Training is not a checkbox to put on a resume. It's preparation and it's vetting. Okay, we need to know that you understand how to do this work, because if you don't, you're going to make the rest of us in the industry look bad. Okay, all right, bonus step. Let's get you some gear, okay? You don't need to spend a fortune on gear to get started. You need a ladder, measuring tape, khaki pants, reliable vehicle, a decent $1,000 PC laptop, the basics. I've seen people overcomplicate this and spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars or get a bunch of loans and financing before they've ever earned a dollar on new vehicles, RVs, etc. And if you want to go deep on what gear that you actually need and what to actually get, I've got a full gear video that walks you through exactly what you need on day 1 and what can wait. All right, so I promised you at the top, I tell you why 2026 might be the best time in years to get into this career. Here it is. I was recently at the Verisk Elevate conference in Salt Lake City, which is one of the biggest gathering of insurance industry leaders, software developers, and restoration professionals in the US. And there was one topic that dominated every conversation, and that was artificial intelligence, right? But Matt, is AI going to replace adjusters? Short answer, no. What AI is doing is making good adjusters faster and better. It's helping with documentation, report writing, estimate audit review, right? The tasks that eat up your time. The person who can get on a roof in Wichita after a hailstorm, identify the hail damage with their own eyeballs, build a defensible estimate, and look a homeowner in the eye, that still requires a trained human being. Your job is to be that person. And the tools available to help you do that job are better right now than they have ever been. The adjusters who are thriving in this environment are the ones who stay current, keep learning, and embrace the tools instead of resisting them. The ones who struggle are the ones who say, well, that's not how I've always done it. I hear that phrase all the time, and it's not a badge of honor. One of the reasons people get left behind isn't because things are moving away from them. It's because they're digging in their heels and choosing to do things the old way when that's no longer an option. There's a real demand for skilled, trained, adaptable adjusters right now. That demand isn't going away. And if you get in, get trained, and stay current, this career has a very, very, very long runway. Look, we've covered a lot of ground in this video, but I want to be honest with you. There's so much more that goes into getting this career off the ground the right way. The licensing strategy, the software training, how to approach IA firms, what to say, what not to say, how to stand out on a roster when you're brand new and you have zero experience to show anyone. So to help you with this, I built a completely free, comprehensive roadmap called Road to the Storm that covers all this stuff in deep detail and so much more. This is video lessons and a companion guide that walks you through the entire process of becoming an independent property adjuster, whether it's field or remote, step by step. Total transparency, this helps me because it only helps my industry, the independent claims industry, if you can get your mind right about what this career is about and how to get up and running quickly. And because of that, this training is totally free. So just go to adjustertv.com/start right now for instant access. Everything that you need to kick this off right is in there waiting for you. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great storm.